All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about something smaller than your fingernail that, believe it or not, holds the key to global power. And look, this isn't about your phone getting faster or your gadgets getting smarter. This is about the future of artificial intelligence and a high-stakes battle over who gets to control it.
Right, because these tiny microchips, the ones that power all this incredible AI, they're not just little pieces of silicon. They are the absolute foundation of, well, everything. They run our economies, they guide our militaries, and they are literally shaping our entire way of life. For decades, America set the rules for the 21st century because it designed the best chips. So what happens when that control starts to slip?
Well, this is the heart of the problem. A single choke point. Get this, over 90% of the most advanced semiconductors, we're talking the really cutting-edge stuff you need for AI, are made by just one company, in one place, TSMC in Taiwan. The entire global tech industry is balancing on this single, fragile point.
So you have to ask, how on earth did America, the country that invented the microchip, end up in such a precarious spot? Well, it wasn't some accident. It was actually a business decision, one made over decades that has now turned into a massive, catastrophic strategic blunder. Just take a look at this timeline. For about 50 years, the story of the computer chip was an American story, born right in Silicon Valley. But then, starting in the 90s, the US decided to focus on the high-profit part, designing chips, while sending the messy, super expensive work of actually building them overseas. It was cheaper, it was more efficient, and it led us straight into the dependency crisis we have today. And this is what's known as the American paradox. The US is still, without a doubt, home to the world champions of chip design. We're talking Nvidia, Intel, AMD. These companies are geniuses. They dream up the most powerful processors on the planet. The problem? They can't actually build what they design, not at the scale or the level of sophistication that's needed anymore. They literally gave that power away.
Which, of course, brings us right back to that single point of failure. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. An entire global ecosystem, from the car you drive to your country's missile defense systems, all of it now depends on one company on one island.
And what's wild about this chart is just how stark the situation is. I mean, when we talk about the most advanced chips, the sub-10 nanometer ones that are absolutely essential for AI, TSMC isn't just the market leader. It practically is the market. To copy what they do would take tens of billions of dollars and decades of knowledge that no one else has. That's why everybody else is just fighting over that tiny 10% slice. So this massive dependency leads to a terrifyingly simple question, especially when you look at the geopolitics. China sees Taiwan as a rogue province and has been very clear that it's willing to use force to bring it under its control. So what happens if that 90% supply chain just stops, like overnight? The answer is, well, it's catastrophic. And don't just take my word for it. A 2024 report from the Council on Foreign Relations put it bluntly. A conflict over Taiwan wouldn't just cause a tech recession. It would spark a global economic crisis that would make the 2008 financial collapse look small.
Okay, and this is where the main challenger walks onto the stage. Because while America was busy outsourcing, China was watching. It was learning, and it was planning. And its goal is incredibly simple and totally absolute: technological sovereignty. It wants complete and total independence from American tech.
Now, America is finally waking up to the threat. The U.S. CHIPS Act is this $52 billion plan to try and bring chip manufacturing back home. And look, that's a good first step, but you have to put it in perspective. That's a one-time payment compared to the hundreds of billions of dollars that Beijing has been pouring into this year after year for over a decade. It's not even in the same league.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because there was this huge unintended consequence. US sanctions were supposed to cripple China's tech industry, but instead, they basically lit a fire under it. It created this do-or-die moment for Chinese companies: innovate or go extinct. And that intense pressure has supercharged their mission, forcing breakthroughs from firms like SMIC and Huawei that experts thought were still years away. So why does all of this matter so much? Because, let's be clear, this isn't just about who sells more phones. This is about who gets to write the rules for the next century. Whoever controls the chip supply controls the future, period. And this slide really breaks down what that control actually means. It's the power to decide who even gets to use advanced AI. It means having a clear military advantage. It's the leverage to hold the entire global economy hostage if you wanted to.
And maybe the scariest of all, it opens the door to embedding hidden security risks, backdoors, into the very hardware that runs our entire world. So all of this has thrown the United States into what is basically a desperate race against time, a race to rebuild an entire industry that it chose to give away 30 years ago.
And yes, it's true, new manufacturing plants, they're called fabs, are being built in places like Arizona. It's a sign that Washington finally gets the threat. But let's be realistic. These projects are still years away from being fully operational, they're facing huge problems finding enough skilled workers, and even when they're finally finished, they'll only produce a tiny fraction of what America and the world actually needs. Which brings us to the really big, uncomfortable question that's hanging over all of this. As China throws everything it has into this mission, and the US scrambles to undo decades of neglect, you have to wonder, is it already too late? So, I'll just leave you with this final thought. The question really isn't if America's dominance in technology is at risk anymore. It is. The real question we need to be asking is what comes next? What does a world built on a foundation of Chinese chips actually look like?